One family barbecue, one reckless comment, and a secret my mother had hidden for 31 years came crashing into the open, changing everything I thought I knew about my sister, my mother, and myself. The late September sun hung low over the backyard of my childhood home in Maplewood, New Jersey, casting a golden glow across the mismatched lawn chairs and the picnic table groaning under the weight of potato salad, grilled burgers, and my Aunt Linda's famous blueberry cobbler. It was September 18th, 2023, and the Bennett family barbecue was in full swing. Laughter floated through the air, mingling with the smoky scent of charcoal and the clinking of beer bottles. My cousins were tossing a frisbee with reckless abandon. My dad was manning the grill with his usual overzealous commentary about the perfect char. And my sister, Emily, was regaling everyone with stories from her latest trip to Costa Rica. I, Sarah Bennett, 31 years old and perpetually single, sat on the edge of the chaos, nursing a lemonade and trying to dodge my mother's inevitable questions about my non-existent love life. I've never been one to cause trouble. Growing up, I was the peacemaker, the one who smoothed over arguments between Emily and our parents, who apologized first even when I wasn't wrong. I liked things calm, predictable. But that day, something felt off. Maybe it was the way the air was just a touch too crisp for September, or the way my mother kept glancing at me with that tight-lipped smile she used when she was hiding something. Maybe it was the third lemonade spiked with vodka that my cousin Jake had slipped me. Whatever it was, I felt a spark of recklessness, a need to say something real, something that would cut through the pleasantries and make everyone stop pretending everything was perfect. It started innocently enough. Emily was going on about her new job as a marketing manager, how she was living her truth and manifesting abundance. She'd always been the golden child, 2 years younger, effortlessly charming, with a knack for making everything look easy. I loved her, but sometimes her positivity felt like a spotlight on my own insecurities. I'd been laid off from my graphic design job 6 months earlier and was scraping by on freelance gigs, living in a cramped apartment that smelled faintly of mildew no matter how much I cleaned. So when Emily turned to me all bright-eyed and oblivious and said, "Sarah, you should totally try manifesting. It's changed my life," something in me snapped. I set my lemonade down, the glass clinking too loudly against the table. "Maybe if I had a trust fund to manifest with, I'd be living my truth too," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. The words hung in the air, heavy and jagged. A few heads turned. My cousin Jake snorted, thinking it was a joke, but Emily's face froze. The laughter around the table petered out, replaced by an awkward silence. "Sarah," Emily said, her voice small, "what's that supposed to mean?" I could have backpedaled. I could have laughed it off, blamed the vodka, changed the subject. But that spark of recklessness was aflame now, and I couldn't stop. "It means," I said, leaning forward, "that it's easy to talk about manifesting when you've never had to worry about money. When mom and dad paid for your college, your car, your gap year in Europe, some of us don't get to just manifest." The backyard went still. Even the frisbee game stopped, my cousins standing frozen in the grass watching us. Emily's eyes welled up, her lower lip trembling. "That's not fair," she whispered. "I've worked hard for everything I have." "Hard?" I scoffed, unable to stop myself. "You've had everything handed to you. You don't know what it's like to struggle, Emily. You've never had to." "That's enough, Sarah." My mother's voice cut through, sharp and cold. She was standing at the head of the table, her hands gripping the back of a chair so tightly her knuckles were white. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I think I do," I shot back, my voice rising. "I've spent my whole life watching you and Dad dote on Emily like she's the second coming, while I'm just, what? The spare. The one who's supposed to be grateful for scraps?" The words poured out before I could stop them, years of resentment bubbling up like lava. I saw my father flinch, his spatula hovering over the grill. My cousins exchanged uneasy glances. Emily was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face, and I felt a pang of guilt, but it was drowned out by the adrenaline coursing through me. "Sarah Elizabeth Bennett," my mother said, her voice low and trembling with something I couldn't quite place. Anger, yes, but something deeper, something raw. "You want to talk about fairness, about who's had what handed to them? Fine. Let's talk." She stepped away from the table, her eyes locked on mine, and for the first time in my life, I saw something in her expression I didn't recognize. Not anger, not disappointment, but fear. She gestured for me to follow her into the house, and when I hesitated, she said, "Now, Sarah, you want the truth? Come get it." I followed her, my heart pounding, the eyes of my entire family boring into my back. Emily stayed at the table, her face buried in her hands, and I felt a twist of regret, but it was too late to turn back. Inside, the house was cool and quiet, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound as my mother led me to the living room. She closed the sliding glass door behind us, shutting out the murmurs of the barbecue. "Sit," she said, pointing to the couch. I sat, my hands clenched in my lap, bracing myself for a lecture about respect or family unity. But what she said next was nothing I could have prepared for. "You think Emily's had it easy?" my mother began, her voice steady but laced with something heavy, something ancient. "You think we've favored her because we love her more. Sarah, you couldn't be more wrong. We've given Emily what we have because we owe her." I frowned, confused. "Owe her? What does that even mean?" My mother took a deep breath, her hands trembling as she clasped them together. She sat down across from me, on the edge of the coffee table, so close I could see the fine lines around her eyes, the ones she tried to hide with concealer. "There's something I've never told you," she said. "Something I swore I'd take to my grave. But you're my daughter, and you deserve to know why things are the way they are." She paused, and for a moment I thought she might change her mind, might stand up and walk away. But then she spoke, and her words changed everything. "When I was 19, she said, "I got pregnant. Not with you, not with Emily. Before either of you were born, I was young, scared, and I wasn't ready to be a mother. Your father and I weren't married yet, and we were barely scraping by. So I gave the baby up for adoption." The room seemed to tilt. I stared at her, my mind struggling to process what she'd just said. You had another child?" I whispered. She nodded, her eyes glistening. "A girl. I named her Lily, though I don't know if that's what they kept. I gave her up through a private adoption, and I never saw her again. I told myself it was the right thing, that she'd have a better life. But it broke me, Sarah. It broke something in me that's never healed." I sat there, stunned, trying to reconcile the mother I knew, the one who baked cookies for PTA meetings, who never missed a school play, with this stranger who'd carried such a secret. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "Because of Emily," she said. "When I got pregnant with you a few years later, I was terrified. I thought I didn't deserve to be a mother, not after what I'd done. And when Emily came along, she was so much like Lily. The way she smiled, the way she moved. It was like God was giving me a second chance. I know it's not fair to you, Sarah. I know I've treated you differently, and I'm so sorry. But every time I look at Emily, I see the daughter I gave away, and I've spent my life trying to make up for it." The weight of her words settled over me like a fog. I didn't know what to say, what to feel. Anger, betrayal, pity, they all swirled together, making my chest ache. "Does Emily know?" I asked finally. My mother shook her head. "No, and I don't want her to, not yet, maybe not ever. It's my burden, Sarah, not hers. But I need you to understand why I've been the way I am, why I've held her so close." I leaned back against the couch, my mind racing. All these years, I'd thought my mother's favoritism was about me not being enough. But it wasn't about me at all. It was about a ghost, a daughter she'd lost, a guilt she'd carried for decades. I wanted to be angry, to scream at her for letting that guilt shape our family, for making me feel like I was less. But all I could see was the pain in her eyes, the way her hands shook as she spoke. "I'm sorry, Sarah," she said, her voice breaking. "I never meant to hurt you. I love you so much. I didn't know how to be the mother you both deserved." I didn't say anything for a long time. Outside, I could hear the barbecue picking back up, the clink of plates, the murmur of voices trying to move past the awkwardness. I thought about Emily, crying at the table, and how my words had cut her deeper than I'd meant. I thought about my mother, carrying a secret that had shaped every decision she'd made, every hug she'd given, every dollar she'd spent. And I thought about Lily, a sister I'd never known, out there somewhere, living a life I couldn't imagine. "I need some time," I said, finally standing up. My mother nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks, but she didn't try to stop me. I walked out of the living room, through the kitchen, and out the front door, not the back. I didn't want to face the family, didn't want to see Emily's tear-streaked face or my father's worried frown. I got in my car and drove, no destination in mind, just needing to move, to breathe. The days that followed were a blur. I didn't talk to my mother, didn't answer Emily's texts. I threw myself into freelance work, sketching logos and tweaking websites until my eyes burned, trying to drown out the noise in my head. But I couldn't stop thinking about Lily. Who was she? Where was she? Did she know about us? I found myself searching online, typing in variations of Lily Bennett Adoption New Jersey into search engines, knowing it was futile but unable to stop. I wondered if she looked like Emily, if she had the same laugh, the same way of tilting her head when she was thinking. A week later, Emily showed up at my apartment. Her eyes were red, Her hair pulled back in a messy bun, and she looked more tired than I'd ever seen her. "Can we talk?" she asked, and I let her in, my heart heavy with guilt. "I'm sorry," I said before she could speak. "I didn't mean to hurt you at the barbecue. I was angry and I took it out on you." She nodded, sitting on my lumpy couch. "I know, and I'm sorry too. I didn't realize how much you've been struggling. I should have seen it." We talked for hours about her job, my freelancing, the way we drifted apart without meaning to. I didn't tell her about Lily. I couldn't, not when my mother had asked me to keep it secret. But I told her I'd been jealous, that I'd felt like I was always in her shadow. She cried, and so did I, and when she hugged me, it felt like the first real hug we'd shared in years. I still haven't talked to my mother, not really. I don't know how to forgive her or if I even need to. I don't know if I'll ever look at her the same way, knowing what I know now. But I'm trying to understand, trying to see her not just as my mother, but as a woman who made a choice she spent her life regretting. The barbecue changed everything. It broke something in our family, but it also cracked open a truth that needed to come out. I don't know what happens next, whether I'll try to find Lily, whether I'll ever tell Emily, whether I'll find a way to make peace with my mother. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm seeing my family clearly, shadows and all. So that is for today's story. If you like the story, share with others, and hit that subscribe button for this type of more stories.